Have you been, man? You have a good week so far?
It's a lot like you. I've had a sore throat for over like 2 weeks, which has been a nightmare. But
Oh
I'm
no.
finally on the mend, so
I don't know what
things
you're
are looking
talking
okay.
about. My voice is just getting deeper. Um,
Yeah.
this is
More
my natural
sultry.
tone. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I finally started to mature.
Yeah, it's good, dude. It finally happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been feeling pretty bad the past week, but it's funny. I was in such a head fog. All I could do was like either watch garbage movies or play video games where I could just completely zone out. So I ended up playing a ton of Beyond All Reason and just like
Okay.
having these like hour-long matches that were just like slugfests, and it was pretty fun. But yeah, I didn't have the capacity to learn any sort of new games or try out anything new. I was just like, no,
Mm-hmm.
just give me my comfort game and let me
Yeah.
watch some trash movies. Actually, speaking of trash movies, there's one that I'm like, you ever see a movie that you're like, this is bad, and you know it's bad right from the start, and then you watch
Yeah.
the whole thing and you like enjoy it the whole way through, and then when it's over, you're like, that was so bad, and I kind of like it, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. A movie called Roadhouse, which is, have you seen it?
That's that over the top one, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty over the top.
It's
It's
like
a
an
remake.
action.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a remake of a Patrick Swayze film from like I don't know the '80s probably.
Okay.
It's got Jake Gyllenhaal, who's like super ripped in it. He's like an ex MMA fighter or something. Is his
Oh
character?
yes, I did see advertisements. It has that MMA fighter in it too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has. Why can't I think of his name now? I'm blaming my sick brain, but like one of the most famous MMA fighters of all time,
Yeah.
who is the bad guy in it. Anyway, I liked it a lot. It just felt like kind of a throwback action flick. And it was just so silly and so over the top. And for some reason, everybody's punching each other. And it's like, you're like, this is America. Somebody's going to have a gun. Like, it's, there's just so many fights where everybody's just punching each other to death, basically. And you're like, does nobody have a gun here?
Nope.
Everybody's just like,
Nope.
just,
It's called having honor, sir.
yeah. Yeah, except it was like gang members and stuff who are like,
Oh,
as
okay.
we know, very
Yeah,
honorable.
that's my favorite is when like organized crime, they're like, all right, let's start punching, right? It's like,
Yeah,
what? Okay.
yeah, like no, they're just gonna shoot somebody. But anyway,
But that's
for
because it's a movie and it's fantasy and it's
I
fun.
know it was fun, and I was like, man, this main character is very lucky that none of the guys he goes up against have a gun, or they're so slow to draw out their gun that he's just like able to, get it away from
Yep,
them or something.
of
You're
course.
like, okay, sure, yeah. I let's see. You want to get into the Battlefield news? You want to talk about Battlefront first?
Speaking
Which
of
thing?
weapons
Yeah.
and weapons not being locked
Hey,
behind classes, that was the transition we were going for, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming you've heard the news and everything because it's God. The Battlefield community literally exploded and was like, "This is the worst thing ever. Dice is trash." Like
Yeah.
basically an apocalyptic moment. It felt like for a lot of Battlefield players.
Well, we have to give them some credit, some context. The news, if you haven't heard, I made a video on it. People have been talking about it forever, so you probably have heard. But basically, EA announced that they weren't going to have class-specific weapons in the next Battlefield game, which is what Battlefield 2042 did. People didn't like it, and so because everybody is so on edge that EA is going to screw
Yep.
up the next Battlefield game,
Uh,
any hint that they are going down the wrong path is
Yep.
met with a nuclear explosion from the community. And
and rightfully so to
I
some
would say,
extent.
right,
Like,
I would agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a dumb decision, and it's a small thing too, where you're like, you don't need to do this. This isn't like some major game
Mhm.
concept idea that seems kind of weird or bizarre. It's like it's just a subtle like, here's how we're going to organize and restrict weapons, and you're like, people have been pretty vocal about why they didn't like 2042's class system and hero system.
Mm.
Why are you repeating the mistakes?
Yeah. I personally want the weapons locked, right? Some of my favorites and going back and playing Battlefield, especially like Battlefield 5 in particular, every class feels very unique. Right?
Yeah.
You got assault that's going to be using your semi-autos. You've got recon, which is obviously bolt action. Medic is all SMGs, really close quarters, and then you've got support, which is this kind of weird mix of like shotguns and holding the line. Like a lot of them, you have to be prone on the ground, defending in a position. Right, all of those are very unique, and I like that because it makes every class feel very unique. But I feel like I want to play devil's advocate a little bit because I don't think it's the nuclear like the response we saw. I thought was a little over the top. Like I don't think necessarily weapons behind the weapons not being locked behind classes would necessarily ruin the game like some people were like painting it would actually be.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that was maybe a bit of an overreaction?
It won't ruin the game. You can log into 2042 and have a good time right now. 2042 in its current state isn't like an absolute piece of garbage. It's really not. It's fine, you know. But it is better with restricted weapons.
Agree. I do agree.
So it's just weird when you're like, this isn't like a tech feature that they had to develop and integrate. And I was talking with Nick 930 about this a little bit. We're just having a chat as to like why DICE would probably do that. And when I sort of went through sort of the logical reasons, it's almost certainly because they are creating game modes. And maybe this involves their battle royales or whatever type of free to play mode that they're doing, where those modes are only going to work if you have class open weapon systems where you can have any weapon for any class because they're going to be using the classes across modes, and it gets too complicated to create a unlock or progression system that is different for different modes. If you get what I'm saying.
Theory.
So
that's good theory.
When you're designing it, you're like, okay, well, we can't have like this unlock and then it not work in this game mode over here. So it's just going to be way easier, guys, if we unlock the weapons for all classes. And that's my guess for it. And it's kind of a crap solution. And it's what it is, and this has happened in past Battlefield games, even some of our favorite Battlefield games, where they're always trying to throw in tons of different game modes. And in my opinion, it often muddies the
absolutely
the core quality of the core experience of the game, because everybody's really playing it for conquest or your breakthrough or your rush style game modes, which are the main things. And then they're like, hey, but we put in this other mode that we put a whole bunch of time into, and you're like, I wish you put more time into the core modes being better, you know. So that's probably what's happening here, which is them trying to cram as much stuff into the game, because we got leaks about new game modes. They have like a finals style tournament mode that got leaked. And so they're working on all these different game modes and ideas, and you're like, cool. But they're trying that standard corporate approach of like, don't focus on just a couple of good ideas, guys. We have to hit them with like 30 mediocre ideas, you know? And you're like, okay, great.
We got to blast them with them. Yeah.
Yeah. The old shotgun approach to game design is like, something will be good, right? So at least one of these modes will be good. And they're going to dumb down. They're going to lessen the overall experience through it. And I'm 99% sure that's why this is happening. Because in 2042, I believe the reason that they did it was, they didn't really have a lot of weapons at launch.
I was going to say, there's one reason, and you nailed it right on the head.
Yeah. They didn't really have a lot of weapons.
2 LMGs at launch.
Yeah. So they couldn't divvy it up per class. This game, I would imagine if EA's thrown as much money as they say they are, they shouldn't have any issues with how many weapons they can pump into the game. So hopefully that's not the reason they're making non-class specific weapons, but, it is stupid, and they're opening themselves up to criticism and skepticism, all while the Battlefield Labs leaked playtest footage looks incredible in the background.
Right. And I think we'll get to that. And once again, I want weapons to be locked behind classes, but to play devil's advocate, because I think this conversation is really interesting, is I think one of the reasons why they're also doing it is a lot of people are like, just make it like Battlefield 4. Just make classes and stuff like that from Battlefield 4 were great. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But you guys remember Battlefield 4 had its own problems with classes and their weapons being locked behind it, right? So one thing that I can immediately think of is they had everyone playing as medic.
Yeah.
Everyone played as medic for the assault weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
BF3 and BF4 did not have industry leading class balance compared to other Battlefield games. And I think you hit the nail on the head with BF5, and I would throw BF1 into that category as well, where the classes all had much better balance and unique purposes. But
which is why I'm so interested. Like, so I find it so fascinating that people keep referencing Let's make it Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. I'm like, they're great games. Battlefield 4 is my favorite Battlefield, but to say like the class balance back then was like, you know, flawless.
It wasn't
like,
good.
no, hell no.
Yeah, you could go months without playing the recon class if you wanted to. Like, you didn't really need to. But in BF1, it was like, it had really good uses, you know? Like, you were the only one that could spot with spotting flares and stuff, which were super useful for finding somebody hiding on a flag site or something like that. And it was just silliness.
Also, Battlefield 4 had the universal weapons. So even if you wanted to play as a recon, you could still use a carbine. You could use, you had DMRs.
I thought that was a good system to a degree.
Yeah, it kind of lends itself to like, well, if you can, they were already blending the balance, right? They were already blending the availability of weapons between classes back then. So, you could play as a recon with that. You could play as an assault with a DMR. I'll walk back
what I said. I think some of the ideas of what BF4 did were good, but carbines were a bit much, where it's like...
That's fair.
I could agree with like shotguns or something becoming universal weapons, but when the carbine is almost identical to the assault rifle, you're like, okay, you're kind of just giving
worse.
Slightly worse, but some of them were so good that you're like, you would opt to take them anyway. So all of a sudden you've got a weapon that's basically an assault rifle for anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
This also opened it up for, because like, what's the one class in Battlefield 4 that is actually different from all of the others based off of their weapon? There's only one.
Based off, I guess, the sniper.
Well, it's a sniper. It's just bolt action rifles. It literally. So there's only one class that is really distinctly different from all of the others.
Yeah, BF4 had the issue of like machine guns, assault rifles, carbines, SMGs all kind of feel pretty similar.
The same, right? Yeah. And also, I'm trying to paint a picture that like Battlefield 4. If everyone wants to keep using Battlefield 4 as like this bastion of balance and everything, it's like we played a game that was kind of what they're describing, but obviously a little bit more restrictive. The final point I wanted to make is and one of the reasons why they actually 2 points. One of the reasons why they may want to go this direction of giving weapons to everyone is that it allows for more options, obviously. So when you have someone who wants to play with a particular weapon, but they want to play as a certain class, they can do so. So if they wanted to use an assault rifle, they're like, oh, well, I can do that without playing as a medic. How many medics in Battlefield 4 were clearly just there for the weapons, and they never revived, they never healed? I'm looking at you, Levelcap.
What?
You were terrible at reviving. Not terrible, but you were someone who wouldn't want to go for revives as much. At least I remember you saying that.
It was I had a different philosophy on it, and people would say, "Oh, he never goes for the revive." But what it actually was if somebody dies out in the open, which everybody in the game does, then if I go out, we've just lost 2 tickets. Like if I kill the guy that killed you or kill the squad that killed you, and then usually that guy's given up his revive by then because people have the attention span of a gnat, or rather no way to tell if they're actually going to get rescued. Then so it's like nobody held out for long enough. If I played a different game like any of these royales or games where people are alive for longer in a down but not out state, then I take my time, take out the person, go for the revive. I think Battlefield has always just been conducive to these YOLO revive strategies, which I'm like, hey, I'm a decent player.
Frag mechanic.
Yeah. Well, and also I'm like, if I'm a good player, let the guy next to me who's a terrible shot run out there and revive the guy. He can have the revive points because he's not going to kill the people who are like trying to shoot the next dude running. I'll kill that guy.
I didn't mean to bring
How dare you, Matt? How dare you propagate the stereotype that I wasn't a team player?
Yeah. You will admit there are people out there, many people that would play as the medic class, but only use it for the weapons. And so open it up where they could play as any class, maybe that they prefer their gadgets, would be nice that they could then, use their preferred weapon. Also, and this is kind of the final point I wanted to make, at least off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
The recon class, I think, is more than bolt actions. I know everyone thinks recon is bolt action, and that's fine. But a lot of their gadgets, a lot of them, focus around being aggressive and getting on an objective, which is the opposite of using a bolt action, right? You've got the tugs, you've got spawn beacons where you can get in flanks and put them in like sneaky spots. You've got motion balls, right? You've got all these things, C4, right? All these things that are not going to be useful 5 miles away from the objective. And so to limit them or not allow them to use a close quarter weapon or something along those lines, I feel like restricts the gameplay and really restricts the options of what they've given you in terms of gadgets. So that would be another reason why it wouldn't be the worst thing ever to maybe give them a couple more options than just bolt actions, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think they did have like SMGs, right, in BF4 or something.
They had, well, they could use carbines. They could use the carbines.
Yeah, they could use carbines and shotguns. So they had more options then.
Right.
Yeah, no, they could do more. Like if the gadgets and the abilities of each class actually are a huge draw, and if they double down on the what do they call them, class specific effects of the weapons, where if you're using the appropriate weapon for your class, you get these benefits. If they make those benefits and nerfs extreme enough, then it could work. But also at that point, you're sort of creating a...
And why just not make classes with restricted weapons, right?
Yeah. So there's some stuff there. I would add on to one of the other reasons for wanting class restricted weapons is like, I got 30 years of playing games where if I see a dude who's wearing a ghillie suit laying down on a hillside, he's got a sniper rifle. Like, that's what he has. And I know it's sort of gamey and whatever, but it also fits with the role of...
The feedback is good. Yeah, because then you can play around it. Yeah, 100%.
When I see the guy carrying the big old backpack with all the ammo and crap hanging off of it, I know that guy's got a machine gun. If I see the guy with the RPG hanging off of his back, well, I know he's an engineer. He's got an RPG. He can repair stuff. He can put down mines. He can do all these kinds of things. I like being able to see the class and have an idea of what I'm in for combat-wise, as opposed to being like, hey, look at that soldier that looks like every other soldier. Oh, he's got a bolt action and sniped me in the head. I couldn't anticipate that because I have no idea. I have no idea what he's running with. So I like that. Sure, it's a gamey mechanic, but we're playing a video game at the end of the day. And I like being able to use experience to affect my strategy in a situation. If you can recognize the class type, now you have a slight tactical advantage or more intel, and you can make a decision based on it. So don't rob us from that. You know, it's like, it's a downgrade in my opinion. Right.
Yeah. The only reason why, because I wanted to talk about it because I think it's fun. But the only reason why I wanted to make all those examples was just to illustrate that, like, in the past we've played, and the examples that people give of like a good Battlefield, it wasn't apocalyptic. It was a good game, and they were blending the lines even back then for our favorite titles, and it worked, right? Like, it wasn't the worst thing ever. Yes, 2042 was a disaster. Yes, it had problems, but it wasn't just because weapons were not locked behind classes. There was far more reaching and problematic issues.
I 100% agree with you. If DICE sticks to this plan, which I think they might have to, if my theory on why they're doing
the
it,
game modes,
there's no reason why the next Battlefield game couldn't be fantastic. If everything else is great and it's just universal weapons are the only downside, then it could still be a great game.
I can live with it.
But I am also in agreement with the community of saying like, hey man, slippery slope. Let's not let anything slide. You know, explode the internet, do what you got to do to make sure that they know that we don't like this. And that means that next time they're thinking about changing something, they're like, hey, what about named operators with quippy personalities? And they're like, no. Like,
stop that.
You stop it now.
Though, like, some people are now taking to the point, like, they're only doing it because it will allow for more paid cosmetics. I'm like, really, guys? Like, maybe that's a play. Because if you have a weapon that you really like, but it's locked behind a class, then you will not buy it, or you'll be less likely to buy it. You know, I'm like, I can kind of see that. But people were giving
Yeah,
Battlefield
man.
2042 a hard time for specialists because they're like, oh, they just want to have specialists to sell more skins. It's like, well, a specialist literally is only one class, and it's
Yeah.
a specialist, right? It's like you can't have it both ways. Like, oh, I guess you
Mhm.
could have it both ways, but I'm gonna look at you a little strange, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we'll
the
see.
other downside about universal weapons is
Mhm.
when there's a meta gun out there, like the AEK or some crap
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
everyone uses it.
Now you got it on every class. Like it's
Every
not
class.
bad enough that I'm seeing it on every assault player, but now you're saying everybody can use it. So now the meta weapon annoyance factor has just multiplied by like 4x.
Ramps up significantly.
Yeah, so it's just another reason to class gate it. Even though you should always be trying to give players a reason to not stick to one weapon type the whole time and avoid meta weapons. We know it's going to happen. This is at least a nice little safety net that says, hey, even if we did screw up and make some gun a bit OP, not every player in the server is going to be running with it.
Yeah.
Except for now they might. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I still haven't played Battlefield Labs. I don't even think you can say if you can, but I legitimately haven't played Battlefield Labs. But
I think you can say that you haven't played it. I think you're allowed to say that.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah. You know what I mean in terms of
I also have not played it, and I haven't signed any NDAs or any of that stuff. I did get an invite, and I didn't accept it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I just don't want to play that game, you know.
Yeah.
And they don't. To be honest, they don't need my feedback. The community knows what's up. Like
they've got like 600,000 apparently players. It's like, holy God. What I will say is that the positivity coming from it, even beyond, like, just except for the class, lock stuff, people are excited. I've had tons of people come to my chat and be like, dude, like, I am so upset that the labs is over. Like, hypothetically the labs is over, and hypothetically you're upset about the fact that you hypothetically played this game, right? Right, guys?
Yeah.
But a lot of positivity coming from it.
I've had people talk to me about it, and they're like, thinking that I signed the NDA and stuff. I'm like, I'm not, I didn't do any of that, dude. And they're like, oh, okay, well, just don't tell anyone. I'm like, okay. It's all leaked anyway. It doesn't matter. I'm watching all the videos.
It's all over the internet.
Yeah. So I'm not
I saw, because I try to avoid it as much as I can, but I saw this one clip. It was like 30 seconds long or a minute long. And I couldn't look away because it was like, God damn, this just looks really
it
good.
Looks cool,
movement,
doesn't it?
Movement is like, kind of slow and sluggish. So it's not so like ADHD, spamming. It's like people are running around slowly so that you can actually have like a normal ass firefight that doesn't revolve around, movement tech, at least so far. The environments felt claustrophobic.
Wait, you didn't see the wall running? Or the
I didn't see the wall running, no.
Oh, man.
No.
Yeah, you can Spider-Man your way around. It's pretty cool.
Oh, damn. I can't wait. What I like was that when you look at 2042, and then you look at leaks from the new Battlefield 6, it looks like a completely different vibe. Yeah. Like 2042 is just like everything's out in the open. Everything looks like you're always kind of zoomed out for some reason. I don't know how to describe it. Everything just feels like very open.
2042 looks like the literal translation of the concept art into a game level. And then you're like, cool, it looks neat, but it plays weird. And so you get these weird landscapes that you're like, yeah, that's cool for like a picture, but it doesn't look like a traditional map, It's
hard to describe. But then I looked at the, Battlefield 6, whatever it's called, and it's like claustrophobic. It looks like it feels like it's more like you're in an actual city, and I was really liking the vibe of that. The weapons looked fun to use. Like it was looking really good. Yeah. I don't want to jump on the hype train too much because, it is DICE and Battlefield and they've known to drop the ball. But the fact that we're getting all of this before we even know the name of the game yet. We haven't gotten an official announcement. We don't have an official release date. They haven't officially shown off the game. Is reassuring, and it's hard not to get a little excited for it.
The clips are what get me hyped, like you can give me all the info in the world and be like 50 maps and blah 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 weapons and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't care. I really, none of that means anything to me. Show me the gameplay, and what I've seen, I'm like, damn, that looks pretty cool. Destruction, bit over the top. like
Over the
one
top.
RPG
I
exploding a
kind of called
building.
that like you remember I was talking about that before.
Yeah.
I was like, this is cool, but it's too much. Like I don't want an entire
I
building
thought they
coming
just
down.
ramped it up for like a little preview trailer.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, no, it looks
Nope.
pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
But they'll dial it back if they need to.
Hopefully they will, because maybe it won't be so bad when you're in it, right? And maybe you just be like, oh yeah, it's just normal, and there's so many surfaces, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah,
it's a big AOE.
Excuse me while I ingest another cough drop over here.
Nope. No. How dare you be under the weather right now? How dare you?
Well, speaking of trailers that look pretty cool,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been following this because there's a little bit of drama. I don't even know if I want to call it drama. Just a little bit of pushback against the original trailer for this game. It's called Alkahest, I think.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's basically like a first-person role-playing game that's fantasy. So you got a sword, you got magic, you're fighting goblins. It kind of looks like Lord of the Rings first person.
Okay.
And the trailer looks really impressive, but then the dev sort of explain, or one of the lead devs, or they explain that they kind of bumped up a few things for the trailer and pre-rendered it and had some animations in there. And then everybody went, well, okay, is this false advertising or not? And now they just dropped a new trailer, which looks really cool. And they're showing a bunch of like crazy combinations of moves and stuff together where the dude's like flying through the air and grabs a barrel and throws it at a dude, and all this stuff is happening. And now I think it's Peter and the Wolf syndrome, where people are like, okay, so is this a fake trailer also?
Is this also fake? Yeah.
But it made me think about it for a bit, because the trailer, the trailer's really good looking.
Oh, Jesus, bro. He just jumped off of a thing and then in the air grabbed a barrel while falling down and threw it. That's 100% fake. There ain't no way.
That's what I'm saying, is like it looks a bit scripted, right? It looks a bit...
Very scripted, yeah.
So maybe it's real, maybe it's fake. But do you think this type of tactic could ultimately be worth it for them in the end? Because they're going to get a lot of press from it.
I've never heard about it before, so here we are.
It's sort of that, what is it? What was that completely fake game that was like the zombie game? Do you remember what it was called? Like,
oh, I do know. Yeah. The day before something.
Yeah, day before, remember. Something like that. Where like everybody was talking about it because they faked an entire trailer, right? They're like, look how good this game looks. You could do anything in it, blah, blah, blah. And then you play it and it's like completely buggy and none of what the trailer showcased.
Yep.
So if this game's getting hype, but the game comes out and is maybe not, it's not completely fake, but it's not quite at the same level, you think that's going to pay off in the end?
I couldn't say. I mean, if it sucks, it sucks. People will usually get pretty wise, and reviews will be, because if you have an expectation and people come in and then that expectation is not met, people are going to downvote it, right? Unless it's like a solid game, but with a couple of like things maybe missing. Most people are probably just going to be very hard on it because that's the internet and you lied, so you kind of deserved it, right?
Yeah. Or if they take the angle of like, it's super, super early access, guys, and we're going to add in all these cool trailer features in like 2 years, which a lot of games are doing right now. And there's a lot of projects that have been kind of propped up by their lofty goals.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I mean, it does have a publisher, and that publisher has made and been a part of like a ton of games like Void Train, Breath Edge 2. What else do they got here that you'd recognize? So they do have a publisher. So I'm guessing this isn't like an actual fake game.
All right. I know you've been playing Roadcraft, and I haven't gotten to play it yet, but I've seen the reviews and I couldn't be more hyped. Just tell me everything, dude. I want to hear it all.
So I've put way too much time into this game already. I think I'm like 30 hours in or something, or even more than that. And it just came out a couple of days ago. It is pretty much everything I wanted, with a couple of exceptions. It's 8 maps. I think there's like 4 kilometers square, something like that in terms of size, all really large. And it's your job to go into a place that has been destroyed by something, be it like a natural disaster. I think there's one where like an oil rig explodes or something like that, and there's rubble everywhere, and you need to try to improve the infrastructure of the region to, assist the locals, right? It's just you. There is technically like AI that you will spawn when you're creating a route, but it's just basically you and your friends, and it is also a co-op game up to 4 players. It is basically about making roads and routes to your destination, building bridges, and that's about it. But that is so goddamn satisfying. It's hard to put into why it is so satisfying. It's made by the people that made SnowRunner and MudRunner. The thing that they're kind of getting critiqued for is that it's not as hardcore as those games. The mud physics and the physics in general are not as punishing. You will get stuck. You'll absolutely get stuck, but it's not as like you're not going to be sitting there for 5 minutes trying to make 10 meters in progress, right? Because you're stuck in like this giant mud pit, right? It's slow, and you will have problems where you need to use a crane to get out of places and stuff like that, but it is nowhere near as hardcore. It's more like their exhibition game that came out, I think, last. And then with all these Roadcraft mechanics on top of it.
Is it designed for group play, or is it more of a, can you do it solo?
You can play it solo, and I've played a ton of it solo, but I think it is better with friends because it's just fun to have your buddy when you're putting down the sand for a road, and then he's following with a bulldozer that will flatten it, and then you're just doing it all at the same time, or maybe you're doing the same task together, or he brings in the crane, you bring in the loader, he puts the stuff in, then you drive it to his destination and recycle that stuff so you can use those resources later on. I do think it's better with buddies. It also makes it a little less tedious because there are times when it's just like you got to make a road by yourself. Good luck, and it's going to suck. But that's also the satisfaction because at the end, what was normally a completely untamed area is now nice and pristine. You've got this wonderful road that goes to where you need it to be. Right? Those are the reason why you want to make roads is. Yes, it saves time, but it also allows for the AI. You have to make routes. They have to reach certain destinations, and they suck at driving. So if they have to go through mud or if they have to go through anything, they're going to fail miserably. And so they need to have like asphalt, especially if it's like a big semi truck. They have like no grip, and so you have to do that. But yeah, like at its core, that is literally the game. Is go in. You've got a bunch of tasks to accomplish. And you are pretty much just trying to improve the infrastructure to make the place more drivable. And yeah, it's really cool. It's really fun. It's really relaxing.
It sounds amazing. And everything I've seen of it looks incredible. And I think all the reviews are kind of backing up your sentiment for the game and just saying like, It looks so good. I really do want to get it and just like zen out on it. Cause it looks like one of those games where it's not like stressing you with tons of time trials, is it? Or is it?
No, there's no timing at all. Nope.
Yeah. It's not like the dam's going to break. You got to build a bridge in like 20 minutes.
It's more like the dam has broken and you need to fix the problem. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Why is it that building roads is so satisfying?
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure. It's also very physics-based. So there was this giant, like you can come across like a giant ravine and you're like, okay, I could build a bridge, or I could just dump an insane amount of sand into it and build the bridge that way. And that's what I did for one of the challenges is I just put a bunch of sand into a ravine and then flattened it out and made essentially a ramp to get to point A to point B. And it took forever, but I did it. So once again, it's not as hardcore. They are, the devs apparently have confirmed they are making a hardcore mode for it though, which will, I think, durability, like your vehicle's durability will come into play, and also fuel. So that was one big critique that people had, and supposedly it's going to be coming into the game sometime in the future. I don't think the game needs it necessarily to be enjoyable for more casual people, because they are clearly not trying to make this an ultra hardcore. There's magic sand in the game, where if you're within a certain radius of a sand quarry, it will just pour into your truck, in the back of your dump truck, and you don't have to worry about it. Some people are like, oh, I want to go all the way back and forth and back and forth. It's like, That's fine. But like, goddamn, this game would be unbelievably difficult and long if you had to do that for every single road and distance you had to make. So I think having kind of those compromises as a quality of life isn't necessarily the worst thing. And if you really wanted to, you could always just drive back yourself and just role play, that you could do that. I don't know if I'd recommend it. And most people are probably like, yeah, I understand why this sand mechanic is here.
Well, you know me, I always say accessibility, right? I feel like that's my word kind of. When it comes to what I like about games, it's like, we don't need everything to like, you don't need to see the animation of you picking up the thing and putting the thing down.
Right.
It's like, create good pacing for it. So it sounds like they've figured out the best pacing for the biggest audience, and they're getting the feedback from a very large audience who enjoy it. And then you've got the hardcore crowd that's like, I want to see the sand go into the truck.
Make it harder.
Yeah. I totally couldn't drive through that normally. Like, you need to kill my truck, or I need to run out of fuel, or whatever. And it's cool that they're adding that in for even that core crowd that wants that.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it if you're looking for a super chill game. I've been playing it a ton with friends, and yeah, it's slow. It's slow going. It's not fast paced at all. You're gonna just be like, yeah, it just took me 10 minutes to get from point A to point B, and the only thing I accomplished is I delivered something. But it progressed the map, and that's what matters. So
yeah. Well, cool. I think I actually am gonna check out that game. Out of all the games that I like, maybe I think that'll be a definitely. Speaking of games that we've already checked out but have made interesting returns, Battlefront 2, all of a sudden everybody's talking about it this week or last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
It had a resurgence that people are saying is sort of like maybe aftermath of like Star Wars Day stuff and other things going on.
I think it's Andor.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is Andor. When I haven't seen season 2, but I've heard it's phenomenal. And I think people are just like hyped for Star Wars, and Battlefront is just an easy choice because it's when you go. I went back and played it, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a solid made game. It's definitely not a hyper competitive game, but it's fun. So yeah, some people are like, hey, we need to get a bunch of people together so that we can get EA to make Battlefront 3. I'm like, I don't know if people coming back to play it is going to all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, we should make Battlefront 3 now. But yeah, there's definitely a little hype going around right now.
Yeah, well, it's I remember playing it back when I made a video not too long ago talking about the best looking games ever made, and Battlefront 2 easily on that list. The graphics are just so incredible, and it still holds up today. So when people go back and play it, they're like, dang, this game is like, it feels like it was released yesterday. It looks amazing, and it plays really well. Everybody was so disappointed when they stopped working on it, allegedly for 2042. And then it feels like one of those games that they could have just kept making DLC for until they were ready to make Battlefront 3, Like they could have, there was enough of a fan base around it that feels like they would have played it, and they could have evolved the game modes. And then ever since it got shut down, they started making those kind of hardcore Star Wars mods on like Squad and Insurgency and stuff, which are pretty darn good. And I feel like that market sort of evolved from like, it's so weird. We get these Battlefront games, everybody loves them, and then they like disappear forever. And then you don't see them for like a decade or two. And then they come back.
Well, yes, I agree. So a lot of people will say that DICE and EA left Battlefield to rot, and I don't know if I necessarily agree, because on the one hand, I think it was a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy on their end, because they made some horrible decisions at the launch of Battlefront 2. They locked characters behind an excessive grind, and I think you could maybe pay to like improve the grind so it wasn't so miserable. And it was like it kind of pay to win, but more of just like, what are you doing? I already paid for this product. Why are you making me? I just want to play as Vader. I don't want to have to like play 20 hours to play Vader, right? I bought the game, so that was like a big thing, and people were really hard on it, rightfully so. There was loot boxes as well. Loot boxes, that was the catalyst to removing loot boxes in a lot of titles, if you guys remember. That was like all the rage, and then DICE overstepped, and that's what kind of kicked off the whole
They
like
just tried to
anti-loot
make
boxes.
so much money off of it.
Yep.
And I got invited to a preview event for that game. None of that microtransaction stuff was in there. So me talking about the game and being like, hey, it's pretty freaking good. Like I can't think of any major downsides to it. Then it comes out with all this microtransaction stuff and they're like, oh, you sell out. And it's like the game they showed me didn't have any of that stuff. So I felt like I got like double crossed, man. It really sucked.
Yeah. That does suck. I hate when devs do that. And mainly publishers who do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it launched in a relatively poor state in that sense. And I think a lot of people were upset with it, and it didn't gain the traction that obviously EA wanted. And then it did okay over the years, and they were updating it slowly. It got a few updates. And then by the end, it was starting to, it felt like it was kind of picking up steam, and then it cut off support. And I think it's because, well, it wasn't making money for them, and they're not going to just keep making a game forever if it's not making money, even if it's a solid title and people don't recognize it as a solid title. It's like at the end of the day, they are a business. And yeah, so I always kind of like push back on the whole, like they left it to rot. Well, it's like, well, there just wasn't a player base back then. Like, yeah, now there's apparently 300,000 concurrent players on all platforms, but it wasn't that case back in whenever they decided to cut things off. But
yeah, and we also don't know what the IP licensing deal was like, because that could be a major thing that just kills any good game.
I'm sure that's very expensive.
Yeah, they're like, you all love this game, we love it, the player numbers are great. The IP cuts into our profit margin so much that we actually have to stop working on it now, and that's a big reason. Because guess what? Star Wars is pretty popular. I don't know if you heard about Star Wars, Matt, but I saw the first episode of Andor, really liked it, and I want to watch more. So I'm first episode of season 2, I should say.
You should.
Phenomenal acting. The first season was super good. So if and people are saying the second season is better, and I'm like, come on, like the first season was A+
pretty awesome
already. Yeah. So really excited for more of that. I already said I played a whole bunch of Beyond All Reason, and then mostly I just like vegged out and watched stuff. I started Wrexham season 4, which I'm going to keep promoting this show, man. I don't care if you like soccer or not.
You still loving it, huh?
It's such a fun show. They're in a league right now where they're going up against Tom Brady's team. So that's fun.
Tom Brady has a team?
Yeah, he has an English football club. He bought an English football club, and his team is playing, and so Wrexham is now in that league, and so they're playing against Tom Brady. So that's very exciting to watch and funny. It's just a fantastic documentary in general, because it's not just about soccer. It's like about the town and the people in it, and how connected the town is to the football clubs, because it's so different than sports over here. Like, we have such a disassociation with sports in America, because we just trade teams and players like all the time, and people don't like develop. I mean, I guess you do develop a strong connection. I was going to say,
there are some people out there that are very much, I'm only one team and only one team fans.
Yeah, but there's a stronger like economic connection between the teams and the cities over there, it feels, where here it's sort of like, it's like a franchise that like uses the city, or they can get like city funding for the team, but then none of the profit from the team goes back to the city, and like other things like that,
Yeah.
And over there, there's like kind of this symbiotic relationship between the teams, and so it creates this sense of like stronger community and stronger, I don't know, like tribalism almost with your team, right? Where you're like, this is our team, and they mean more to us than just it being a sports team. And so like getting wrapped up in that, you're like, dang, this is like so much cooler than sports over here.
Yeah, I can believe it. One of the reasons why I had such a hard time getting involved with esports is they constantly are trading members back and forth. I'm just like, oh, okay, this person that I was, on that team that I kind of liked is now on this team, and that person's on this, and now it's like, what's even the point? Like, what is happening right now, right? Like, very, very strange. So
also, do they still do gamer houses for esports?
They do, yeah. Well, at least I think they do.
that always struck me as kind of funny because I'm like, can't they all just play from their homes?
No, no, no,
They all got to be
not
in
allowed.
these frat houses.
I think
like,
it's because
basically.
I mean, I can kind of see it because it can get them, bring people together and they can do like land stuff that normally they wouldn't be possible. But yeah, no, it is a little strange.
Yeah. It also just seems like an expense or whatever. Like, hey, come be this famous esports gamer and live in this bro frat house. And you're like, ugh,
Right.
gross, like,
Yeah, you see all the rooms and there's like nothing in it. It's just young men,
Yeah.
they're not, yeah, and they
it
just
looks like a college dorm,
it
basically.
does, yeah.
And you're like, okay. Like, even professional
Fine,
athletes
yeah,
get to go home to their apartments or their houses after their games or their
you got to
practice.
start
Like,
somewhere, Levelcap, gotta learn.
it's true. Esports is I don't know what it is, but it's a young man's game, so I guess that works, right?
Yeah.
If you're super young and fast on the reflexes, then you go to the gamer house. You get your streaming contract and whatever. Were you ever like big into any esports teams or like watching it more regularly?
I used to watch League of Legends back in the day, but not so much anymore.
Yeah.
I don't really watch it. I don't really watch any esports. I think it's fun to like check out Rocket League from time to time because they're absolutely bananas, and it's just like, how are you doing that?
Yeah.
When I played, I could basically maybe bump the ball twice before it flew off in a random direction, and they're over here flying around like they're goddamn Superman. So that's fun. Sometimes I'll watch like a League of Legends tournament when it's like the finals, and you'll see the pro players in that, and that's cool. But no, I'm not really big into esports like I used to.
Yeah. I've fallen off as well. It's not so much that I want to, it's that just there isn't a game that I'm playing or particularly interested in right now that there's a exciting esports scene for. I loved StarCraft back in the day. And I'm kind of bummed that RTS really fell off in terms of like at least the US crowd. I think it's still big in like Korea and stuff, but I always found RTS super entertaining to watch because it is like sort of a real-time chess game, and you're just watching these brainiacs go back and forth really quick, and the plays are crazy, and it's a great format for it. But yeah, when StarCraft 2 kind of fizzled out a bit more in the States, then I was like, well, I don't know. There's not much. I watched Hearthstone tournaments for a bit. Those are
not for me.
They were fun, but there's such an RNG factor to them that when you start seeing people win or lose based on just the flip of a card, it becomes kind of like a poker tournament, and that can be exciting, but it wasn't I like strategy. I like people winning out of pure skill and strategy versus that plus a healthy dose
the card
of
game
RNG.
definitely won't have that.
Yeah. So I haven't really watched it much. I did try esports with Battlefield. They tried to do it for so long. I remember being on like competitive team for like, I think 2142 maybe, and did a little scrims in like BF2 and stuff like that. And I was like, it's going to be the next big thing. And it's like, nah, they never jumped on that bandwagon.
The whole appeal of Battlefield is the large scale gameplay. And the only way you can make a esports scene work is not large scale, because they already struggle to afford and keep 5 people on a payroll for a team, let alone 32 versus 32.
It wouldn't work.
That's just completely infeasible in that respect. And then just like coordinating 32 people, like,
well, and
that
how do you watch the
be...
match? Like, you're gonna miss 80% of the big plays, right?
So the only way you'd be able to really, I mean, it would be fun to watch like disorganized, competitive, teams
they try. Do you remember BF1's attempt at esports? Kind of.
Did they have like a beta or something that they were working on? And it never came out.
It never came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I forgot what the team sizes were, but they were much smaller. And
I think it was 5v5 or like maybe more than that, but not much.
There are some good ideas in there, but ultimately it just seems sort of like a a domination round, right? I think
Yep.
domination's incredibly boring as like a game mode, and especially
Uh-huh.
as a spectator mode. You're like, all right, some people are going to run around and trade flags, a bunch
Yeah.
throughout a match. And you're like, there's
Yeah.
no huge plays or big pivotal moments. Like, it doesn't have that excitement you get with other game modes. So, yeah.
Essentially, Battlefield, the thing that makes Battlefield does not make for an esports game.
Yeah.
At all. Just doesn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think they had an opportunity to like branch off when they did BF3's Destruction, and I basically envisioned it being sort of like a Rainbow Six Siege style game, and then they never capitalized on them being the only game that had all this nuanced destruction, and then Rainbow Six came out. I was like, well, you missed that boat,
There it is. Yeah.
So you had it right there. You had all this cool innovation. You're like, oh, what should we do with it? How about nothing? And they did. So that happened.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I watched a movie that I would recommend to anyone, honestly. It's just it's called The Ballad of Wallace Island, I think.
The Ballad of Wallace Island.
Yeah. British comedian, actor, I believe, wrote the film, wrote the script for the movie, and then he acts in it. And it's, I guess you could classify it as a rom-com, but it's really more of a comedy with a little bit of romance in it.
Okay.
It's just like this very bizarre and funny British humor film with I don't even know if the jokes could be considered puns. They're like pun adjacent in that like the main character in it is always making these puns, or one of the main characters rather, is always making these pun related jokes, but they're so far from actually being puns that they're not technically puns. They're like, they're failed puns, and they're so bad that it becomes funny. Like, I don't know. I think he's like, his sense of humor is like either you love it or you don't, but I was dying the whole time.
Cool.
It's sort of, I'd say it's uncomfortable British humor, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It's more slightly awkward, but in an adorable way, I guess.
All right.
Basic premise for the film, and this isn't a spoiler, is like a folk musician who's like been around for quite a while gets paid by this super wealthy dude who has an island, owns his own island, to come do a concert out there, and he kind of realizes along the way that like he's just playing for this one guy and nobody else. And he's sort of orchestrated all these events around it, and it's entertaining. It's very funny. So cool. I recommend that. That was the best movie I watched in my sick haze, was The Ballad of Wallace Island.
Nice. I'll have to check it out. And by check it out, I mean, I'll put it on my very long list of movies that you've recommended, but I just don't watch a lot of movies. And then eventually one day I'll get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's all good. Hey, I'm like a movie recommender. Okay. So if you're like, hey man, what's a good movie to watch? I'll be like, all right, what are you in the mood for? I got an endless list. Although I'm not into the horror anymore. I'll watch one from time to time if it's like really highly recommended. But yeah, they've been getting back into body horror recently, and that is not my cup of tea.
I hate body horror.
Yeah.
I think body horror is really gimmicky.
Yeah. Well, The Substance was really good, but I had to turn away for like 20 to 30% of that movie. Like, it was tough to watch. It was such a well shot, well made movie that I was like loving the vibe, but could not watch the just absolutely disgusting
I just don't like seeing
stuff.
people getting hurt, it's just not for me. I just don't like seeing people in like, horrible positions. And
yeah. Well, because body horror is really about like zooming up on it. It's like, here's a close-up shot of like this horrible, disgusting thing happening. You're like, can't you just infer that it happened? No. We got to show you. We got to show you all the juicy details,
Yeah, I agree. It's not really for me.
Yeah.
I did. Have you heard of? Because I haven't watched any movies, but I've been playing a lot of games. Have you played or heard of Monster Train 2? Or did you play Monster Train 1?
No, I haven't heard or played, but I do like trains, and I like train games a lot. So
So it's not really about trains. You are technically
not
on a
interested.
train,
Okay, yeah.
but it's like Slay the Spire. So it's a
I'm
rogue.
looking it up. Okay,
It's a roguelite
of course it is.
card game where you are going from
Roguelike
basically
card game, man. I got all excited about a train simulator.
Yeah, it's not
like,
actually
oh.
it's not actually about trains, but it's
I don't see any trains in this. In what I'm looking
you're
at,
technically
right now.
on a train. So the videos that you're watching or if the screenshots that you're seeing is different levels of a train. It doesn't make much sense. I don't know why there'd be multiple levels of a train, but
I swear,
yeah,
they just threw train in here to get my attention, and then
yeah,
they're like,
I think
it's
they did.
a card game.
They could have called it Monster Bus, and it wouldn't like it wouldn't have changed anything.
Monster Meadow, like it doesn't. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the whole point is every round, at the bottom of your train, there will be enemies that will show up, and you have to stop them with your own units, right? And then you get your cards, you put them down, put units in, and you defend each level until they get to the top level. Where if they get past all of your units or they kill your units, they'll reach your basically the heart of your train, and they'll try to destroy it. And your heart or the pyre will fight back until it can't anymore and it dies. And then and that's the end of the run, right? They've got, I think so far, there's like 5 different factions. Each one has alternate versions. So you have like a main hero character that you can put down that will have like some sort of unique ability. And then you will select from, so that they'll have that faction. And then you'll have a supporting faction that will have those, the cards from that faction, except for the champion card, right?
Mm-hmm.
The synergies and the options are absolutely bananas in this game. And somehow, maybe I've just gotten better at these titles. It's really intuitive, and I feel like I can build a deck as I'm going along organically that like synergizes really well and makes me feel like, oh, I'm figuring this out. Like, oh, this is how it's supposed to work. When I played Monster, yeah. When I played Monster Train 1, I felt like I was just kind of lost a lot of the time, where I'm just like, okay, so that didn't work at all. That didn't work at all. That didn't work at all. Yeah. This, I feel like I'm getting like, oh yeah, I can see how that would then synergize with this, that, and that. For example, there's a card that every time it's a unit. Every round it will spawn 4 of these shroom little dudes. It will summon 4 of them, and they are in a stack. So basically, it's 4 shrooms. It's 1 unit. Hard to explain. Anyways, I have another unit. Every time a unit is summoned, it will put basically a poison on the enemy, right? And then have my hero, where every time I cast a spell, it also will put poison on the enemy. Yeah. So you have these like synergies. It starts ramping, right? Where you got like all these people on the same line, and they synergize with each other. Oh, and then I also have another one where every time a unit is spawned, every unit on your board will get 1 more health and 1 health regen. Yeah. And so you're spawning every round 4. You're casting spells, which summons 1. You cast a spell which also does damage. So it's just ramping, right? And that it's so satisfying when you finally like, oh, sick, it's working. And then you beat the boss, or you get absolutely slammed because you didn't account for something and you feel like an idiot.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because it makes me think about so many of my favorite roguelike games where you don't start synergizing until you've failed like 5 times or more.
Yeah.
Then maybe you look up a guide, or maybe you just figure it out on your own or whatever. But it takes a while to get to the part, that reward section, and maybe that's just kind of been the norm for so long that people expect it from a roguelike, where it's like, yeah, you play it and you're just going to get stomped on like over and over and over until you figure it out. Good luck, sucker. But like, if you could make a roguelike that can get you to the fun synergy part, and you're like enjoying that you're synergizing and you feel like you're more in control, and still have it have that longevity and that fun factor, then great.
And that's what I'm feeling with Monster Train 2. I'm very much vibing that it didn't take me long to just at a glance be like, oh, that card's going to easily go with this other card. Yeah. Right? It's not this like, wait a second, how is this gonna? So could be that I'm just getting better at these titles. I don't know, but I have really been vibing with with Monster Train. It's a good time.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I've been wanting, maybe chat or people in the comments can help me figure this out, but I've been wanting to play like a roguelite RTS. And I've sort of been like literally just Googling like what's a good roguelite RTS, and there's really not a lot of recommendations.
I don't think there is any.
Yeah, there's a few that are in development that look okay-ish, but nothing that I can play right now, or like, some is like, Patreon demo or something like that, and I'm not super interested. But that was like the one area of Homeworld 3 that I was like, this could be good if they put more time into it, but it was it felt like an afterthought or very undercooked when they launched it. Yeah. They're like, this is our multiplayer experience. And you're like, yeah, did you dev this for like 3 months or something, guys? Like, this is like barely functioning, but in its barely functional state, I liked the concept of it. I was like, yeah, I want more roguelite RTS games where your units are determined by the cards or the abilities that you get from like round to round, and you're trying to see how far you can go. Like, I mean, that's kind of some of the most fun RTS games. Is I've been playing so much Beyond All Reason, and it's very classic, and I like that about it. But the problem with Beyond All Reason is like the apex of the round usually happens in like, I want to say about a third of the way through the match, where that's the most challenging point. Is you're kind of rushing towards this point in which you have to determine if your economy versus their rush strategy or whatever, who picked the right strategy. You're starting to realize about a third of the way through the round where you're like, my strategy is winning and working, and now the tides are turning in my favor. Sometimes there'll be some sort of Hail Mary play that could turn that, usually not. And then once that part of the round is over, you're sort of just progressing towards an inevitable victory. And it's kind of a long, hard-fought victory, potentially, or your opponent quits or whatever. But that's how most rounds play out. And it's not the best. Like, StarCraft does a lot to like remedy that by creating all these different interesting rules and stuff, or players will just know who's going to win right away and quit a round like very early on. But I was like, yeah, they could fix that with some roguelite rules, where things keep changing and evolving as the match progresses, rather than having to have the same ultimately long, predictable round that any good player will quit out of. Yeah, after a certain period of time. So
I feel like it'd be hard to develop it that way, but
I think, cool. I think RTSs are not only are they hard to develop because they have a lot of balance, a lot of strategy, and a lot of like, you tweak one economy value and like entire strategies change. You're like,
right.
You can't just start tweaking stuff and be like, it works. You're like, no. Like half of the dev time in an RTS is probably just on balance alone, which sounds like a nightmare. But in addition to that, RTSs, and we were talking about this a little bit with like the Switch 2, which apparently will now accept just a normal mouse as a controller, but you don't have the console market. Most other games, a lot of other games have the console market available to them. RTSs are like, I hope we sell enough units on PC so it becomes...
There's the Switch 2 now.
Yeah, well, I'm saying is that can support a mouse, but how many RTSs are going to be played on the Switch 2?
I'm just giving you. I'm just poking fun. I don't think it's obviously going to be. Yeah, keep going.
Yes, I know. It's silly to think that there's going to be an RTS market all of a sudden on the Switch 2 because it has mouse. I mean, technically, Sony and Xbox have keyboard and mouse support, I believe. So, like,
they do.
There isn't like a giant RTS market over there. At least I don't think there is, unless there is, and I somehow am unaware of it. But I've talked to RTS devs who are like, no, we're not developing for console. Are you crazy? Like, why would we do that? So it would be, that's what makes RTS hard to develop, is like they're complicated games and you have a restricted market. Like the incentives for doing it are not fantastic to begin with. You're sort of starting from if we're really successful, we're only going to be really successful on the PC. So even a big success is going to be smaller than another genre's big success. But I do love them, man. I think their main benefit is that when you sit down to play an RTS, and this is a major thing that Steam tracks, and Steam will auto algorithmically promote games, that you sit down and play for longer periods of time. And RTSs are incredible at that, right? Where you're like, I'll play around. And then you're like 4 hours in, you're like, holy crap. Yeah.
Yep.
There's not a lot of other games that can suck me in for like 4 hours before I realize 4 hours went by. You know, RTSs are like masters of that. So
they're also exhausting.
Yeah, that's true.
Played some Age of Empires with the bud, and an hour went by. I'm like, I'm tired. I need to take a nap.
I know.
They can be a lot.
It's the economy, dude. I get so tired of coming back and like, all right, I gotta build more of this crap. Where can we put it? Okay, put it here. Oh, I gotta do it efficiently. And then you're like, oh crap, did I lose my entire legion? Oh, I wasn't watching. Dang it. You know, that always drives me crazy. I don't have
RTSs though.
I know. I'm not a multitasker and I like them, but I always get screwed on the multitask. I'm just like, oh, right. I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
I want to be good, but I'm not. Sad.
Sad.
There's an F1 race, Matt. You want to hear about? No, just kidding. Oh, there was a.
Thank you for sparing me.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was another news story. Now I can't think of it. I think we already talked about some of the Star Citizen drama.
I think we did. Yeah, last week. So apparently, my take on
what did people
releasing
say?
the game was one of the worst takes ever. I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
remember last week I was expressing my frustration with the fact that it's like they've made 800 million. They're adding more microtransactions. I'm like, I get you're a business, and to this person's credit, you know, they are a crowdfunded game, and they need more money to generate.
Yeah.
Like, I get that, but I was more of just expressing my my frustration. It's like, how about you just finish the goddamn game, and then release it, and then make your money that way, just like every other game out there. But apparently, that was one of the dumbest takes.
Did you anger the Star Citizen community, Matt? I didn't.
Apparently, I made rustled some feathers a bit. Yeah, It was a mean comment. Well, it wasn't a mean comment, but it was like, damn, apparently I'm just bad at takes. So wanting the game to eventually release and just pay for it, that's
how dare you, Matt? I mean, yeah. I wish all of these takes could be. I don't think companies are inherently doing evil things, and I don't think, we can't all just, and we also can't just release a game willy-nilly whenever. I think they've really paddled themselves up a creek, and we all want the game to come out, but the reality is it's not going to without a lot more work.
Yeah.
But the general reports are that it's way more stable right now. It's even got me thinking about coming back in to do some wins and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
There's content coming back. You know, it's getting exciting all of a sudden. Sort of.
Fingers crossed.
I jinxed it, of course, but Squad. The latest story about them was they were hiring a bunch of people with console expertise. So I think they're probably going to look at Squadron 42 as a console port.
Okay.
It's pretty beefy looking though, so I was gonna
say, good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Struggling on PC, so we'll see.
Running at a 720p resolution.
Right. Especially with all the things in the background, right? That they're CPU bound.
Yeah. It'll be fine. Well, that's kind of. I think my voice is gonna give out for the podcast.
How about we just kind of cut it there, since you're, I can tell you've been struggling a bit.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody else for putting up with my sick voice today. I thought I was over it. I am almost over it, I guess.
Almost over it.
Yeah, gonna barely make it through it. Thanks for watching. Check out our Patreon. Matt's gonna give you some excellent advice.
Some excellent advice by Levelcap Goes and Coughs. My recommendation is take care of yourself, drink plenty of water, hydrate yourself, get plenty of rest, so that whenever you do encounter getting sick, you heal up quickly.
All right, take us out, Matt.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. And until next time, have a good one and take it easy.
Bye-bye.